Hello, you're going to have to put up with me all the way till the end, I'm afraid now. I'm going to do it in 3 more parts so that we'll finish by half term. Monday, March the 20th, 1944. I had to say goodbye to Dad before I went off to school this morning. He walked Barry and me to the end of the lane to meet the school bus with Barry wearing his beret. He loves Dad's beret. Dad was in his uniform again, the first time he'd put it back on since the day he'd arrived, and I was very proud of him when the other children saw him. He's got 3 stripes on his arm, which means he's a sergeant and can tell other soldiers what to do. I think I didn't cry because I was even more proud than I was sad. He told me I had to be good. "I'll be home again soon, Lil," he said. "You look after your mum for me and be good. The war will be over before you know it." Barry handed me his beret. Dad ruffled his hair and we got on the bus. We ran to the back seat. Dad was getting smaller and smaller in the distance. Soon, all too soon, he was gone altogether. Then I did cry, but I looked hard out of the window so that no one would know. It's been strange having Dad back home. Somehow there didn't seem to be a proper place for him in the house. He spent most of the time with Grandfather and Uncle George on the farm, mending all the machinery, and a whole afternoon tinkering with the tractor engine with Barry, who loves getting his hands oily. Once he went off drinking in the pub with Uncle George and the others in the Home Guard, a sort of welcome home party, I think it was, but we couldn't go, of course, because we're not allowed in pubs. Mum was so happy when he first came home, but then I'd see her gazing at him out of the kitchen window, and I knew what she was thinking. As the days passed and Dad's leave got shorter and shorter, we were all thinking the same thing. We didn't laugh like we had before. We were just waiting for the moment he had to leave, so we couldn't enjoy him being there as much as we should have done. It hung like a shadow over us. Now he's gone, and it's as if he's never been home at all. I'm going to pray for him every night he's away, starting right now, and I won't miss once. Cross my heart and hope to die. Wednesday, March 29th. When we go to school now, we see more and more soldiers. Mostly they're Yanks, but some of them are ours too. We see them in lorries and tanks, and we see them marching along. They're putting up whole villages of tents all over the place. Every time I see a black soldier, I look to see if it's Adie or Harry. I haven't seen Adie for ages now. I expect they've been doing lots more of their landing exercises. I know he's all right because Uncle George says he saw him only yesterday on patrol with Harry along the perimeter wire. Uncle George said he'd ask them to come and visit us again sometime. I hope they do. I really hope they do. Thursday, April the 20th. The day of the great hot dog feast. That's what I'm calling today. Barry and I were running up the lane, coming back from school. We were racing one another and I was winning, as usual, when we heard a car coming up behind us. It was Adie and Harry in their Jeep. They said they were just coming to visit. Harry was carrying a bunch of daffodils. They gave us a lift home, which was good fun, but what happened next was supreme, in capitals. They were solid sausages, really, but they called them hot dogs, and they bought dozens of them. I've never seen so many sausages in all my life. They said you just stick them between slices of bread and pour on tomato ketchup, and they brought that along too. So we had a great hot dog feast, all of us together in the kitchen, and in the middle of the table were the daffodils Adie and Harry had given Mum. Barry said it was the best meal of his life. Remember, they'd have been on rations, they'd had really small amounts of meat and things. That would have been a big deal to have those hot dogs. He ate 6, and I got ketchup all over his face. I could only manage 3, but they were delicious. We only mentioned Tips once, when Uncle George's cat came in, rubbing up against my leg and looking for a sausage himself. I told Adie what had happened, how Tips had gone off and about the hotel being blown up. He knew about the hotel, but he told me I wasn't to worry. "She'll come home," Adie said. "That cat's a real survivor, sure as my name is Adolphus T. Madison." And I said I wasn't so sad anymore because I hadn't really thought about her since Dad came home, which was true. Everyone talked about Dad a lot, and Mum told them she didn't know where he was exactly, but maybe he'd be part of the invasion too when it happened, and how maybe they'd meet up in France one day, and we all did a cheers to victory. Barry and me and soda pop, which they brought along, and which is sort of like American lemonade. It's nice, but not as nice as our lemonade. And the grown-ups did their cheers in beer, which Adie and Harry brought along too. They'd brought along the whole hot dog feast, everything. Adie's so tall he can't stand up straight in the sitting room without hitting his head. He keeps knocking his head and laughing at himself, and when Adie laughs, everyone laughs, The whole house seems to laugh. They didn't just bring us sausages, they brought us real happiness. Then they drove away into the darkness. Now they're gone, the house seems empty and quiet. Barry's been sick, but he says it was worth it. Friday, April the 28th. There was a thunderstorm out at sea last night. It woke me up. I knelt on my bed and watched the lightning from my window. Mum slept through it, so did everyone else, but I heard it. I didn't imagine it. Tips used to hate thunderstorms. She'd burrow down my bed and hide, but they never frightened me until this one. Or maybe it was the sudden blackness and silence which followed it that did frighten me. I don't know. I hope Adie and Harry weren't out in it doing one of their practice landings. In school today, Mrs. Blumfield read us a story. It was all about America. It's called Little House in the Big Woods. I like it a lot, but the people in it don't talk at all like Adie and Harry, not the way Mrs. Blumfield reads it anyway. Uncle George's radio has gone wrong again. All you hear is whistles and crackling. He's really cross, but he still sits there all evening trying to listen to it, banging it from time to time, but all he gets is more whistling and crackling. Barry and I got the giggles when Barry imitated Uncle George's grumpy face. Mum told us off. Remember, they wouldn't have had a telly, so the radio would have been really, really important. Monday, May the 1st. I wish today had never happened, that I'd never woken up this morning. It was all perfectly normal to start with. Breakfast with Barry and Mum, off to school, lessons, playtime, lunch, more lessons, then the bus home. We walked into the kitchen, and there was Adie sitting at the table with Mum. I knew there was something wrong at once. He was looking up at me as if he didn't want me to be there. Then he looked away. It was Mum who told us. "It's Harry," she said quietly. "Adie came to tell us. He's been killed." When Adie spoke, his voice was filled with tears. "We was told we've got to keep it quiet," he said, "but I ain't going to keep it quiet, not for nobody. There's hundreds of us dead out there. What are they going to tell their folks back home? I tell you what they're going to say, training accident or some such thing. But I was there and I knows what happened. I've seen it with my own eyes. We had no way of fighting back, no way of defending ourselves. There was no one out there just watching our backs, and that ain't right. That just ain't right." He cried then and couldn't go on. So Mum went on for him. She told us that 3 nights ago the soldiers had been a few miles offshore in their ships, waiting to come in and do another practice landing on Slapton Sands, when suddenly, out of nowhere, came these German E-boats. The ships were like sitting ducks. They were torpedoed. They didn't stand a chance. They were all sunk. Hundreds of men were lost. Some of the soldiers, like Adie, did get picked up, but Harry wasn't one of them. Mum gave him a cup of tea after that, and afterwards Barry and I walked him to the end of the lane. "There's something I want to tell you," he said. "Harry and me, we talked plenty. We was talking one day about what we was doing over here fighting in this white man's war. You know what he said? He said, 'I know why I'm doing it, because we ain't going to be no one's slaves never again. That's why. We got our freedom and we're not going to let no one take it away. We're going to keep it.' That's what he said. But when I go over there to France, I ain't going to be fighting for no one's freedom. I'm going to be fighting for Harry, and they better watch out because I'm mad. I'm fighting mad." And as he put on his helmet, he managed to smile. "Harry got no family back home. He told me after he was here last time that he reckoned you were about the only white folks that ever treated him like family. Right now, that's just about how I feel too." Adie walked away from us and never looked back. And as we watched, I wanted to run after him and hug him to me and never let him go. I wanted to tell him I loved him and that I'd love him to the day I died, because I do. I love him more than lemon sherbets, more than mint humbugs, more than I love Tips or Mum or Dad, more than all of those put together, and that's the truth. On the way home, I picked a daffodil. I've put it in my diary on this page, so it'll always be here, marking the day Harry died, and the day when I first knew I loved Adie. Wednesday, May the 10th. Adie still hasn't come back to see us again. I've been hoping and hoping every day. I wonder if he ever will. I can't stop thinking of him walking away down the lane, and that maybe it's the last time I'll ever see him. Mrs. Blumfield keeps saying the invasion must happen soon. Any day now, she says, when the weather's right. They've got to wait till the weather's right. It's rough out at sea today. I hope it stays rough forever, and then Adi won't have to go on the invasion and he'll be safe. I helped Barry and Mum pull off a calf this afternoon. The calf was walking inside less than 10 minutes. Do you know what that means? Pull off a calf. It means give birth to it. The calf was born. I've seen lots of lambs born, lots of calves, and each time it surprises me how quickly they can get up and walk on their wobbly legs. What takes us a year or more, they can do inside an hour. Mum's a bit down. It's because she hasn't had a letter from Dad since he left. We don't even know where he is. We think he's in England still, but we don't really know. We were kneeling there in the field, watching the calf trying out his first skip and falling over himself, and Barry was laughing. But Mum and me weren't laughing because our minds were elsewhere. If Barry hadn't been there, I think I'd have told her there and then. I know what it feels like, Mum, to miss someone you really, really love. I can't tell Barry that I love Adi, that's for sure, because he's too young and he wouldn't understand. And even if he did understand, he'd be upset. He's never said it, but I know he wants me to be his girlfriend. I never will be, not now. Barry's more like a brother to me, more like a friend, a really good friend. With Adi, it's different. So completely different. See you there for today.